Sextortion is the hidden crisis that we're not talking about in sports. I was sent this email or this article that was written by Dan Wetzel by my guy Drew Davis, and the article is from August 10th. It's titled "The Predatory Web of Sextortion Increasingly Ensnares Young Athletes." This should be a required read for every coach, for every parent, for every athletic director, for anybody that's working with athletes in sports. Some of the numbers in this article are alarming. There's 36, and I have the article pulled up here so I can get the correct numbers to you. And the article link is in the show notes. I definitely want you to check it out because it's needed. But 36 confirmed sextortion-related suicides of young men in the United States. And the FBI says the real number is higher. Wetzel himself says that this is the most underreported crisis in America right now. This article was alarming, and I didn't realize it, but in my role, I worked in player development at the University of Houston, University of Kansas, and Baylor University. At one of those universities, I had to deal with a situation like this. Now, let me give you a little background on what sextortion is and why it's a major crisis and why we need to be talking about it in football, basketball, college football, but specifically male athletes. So sextortion, and this is not a definition, I'm just going to give you the game plan for those that do it. Those who are committing the crimes are overseas, and what they're doing is they go to social media and they create a profile as if they're a young lady, young woman, and they send messages to these athletes. They target, in the article it talks to FBI and other police information says that the targets are males 15 to 22 years old. And so they send these messages and they get these messages going with these young men and start buttering them up and building relationships. And then they send a nude. They send a nude and then they force the young man, or they say, hey, send me a nude back. And then the nude is sent back, and then they send, hey, if you don't give me this much money now, I'll let your parents know, I'll let your coaches know, I'll ruin your life. And so this article highlights a young man where this happened, and they were saying, we're going to let your coaches know, we're going to, destroy your future. And the young man was like, man, and this is graphic, it's in an article. He said, I want to kill myself. And those overseas who were doing this were saying, well, you should do it. And the young man took his life. In this article, it says most of these studies, most of the young men who have taken their life have done it within 24 hours of the messaging. One young man took his life within 27 minutes of the messaging. And so this is an alarming crime going on right now, specifically targeting athletes, because the blackmailing or the fear that these people put into these athletes is, I'm gonna tell your parents, I'm gonna tell your coaches, you won't get recruited, you won't do all this, and it puts fear. Now, going back to my story, I was at a university, I'm sitting in my room and I get a text message from a young man. He says, hey, me and my friend need to come see you. And so I'm like, cool, yeah, come see me. It was a Friday, which is kind of weird in the off season because Fridays after they do their workout, they kind of leave, they're gone. I was kind of in the office getting ready for the next week. So I thought it was weird that they text messaged me on a Friday. It might've been off season. It could have been before the season or after the season, but I remember we weren't in games. And so his friend came in, they both closed the door, and the friend was speaking for the friend. He's like, Coach, I had to bring him here. He didn't want to come here, but he had to come here. Coach, you need to check this out. And so this young man is, the other guy, his teammate who he brought in is crying. He's crying, he's turning red. I'm just like, hey, whoa, what's going on? And so he don't want to tell me. He's like, man, Coach, I'm just embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to tell you. And I'm like, what? I mean, you got to tell me what's going on. Like, I need to help you. And his friend is like, all right, Coach, this is what happened. So his friend breaks it down, and then the athlete this was happening to actually stopped. He said, Coach, look, man, I sent a nude to a young lady, and now she wants money, and she's going to get me kicked off the football team and all this. And so I'm like, whoa, now my millennial brain is like, all right, like, I understand this generation sends nudes. I don't agree. And so I was like, why would you send a nude? And I remember I had to get back into the empathy, like, okay, let me see what the generation is. And so I said, hey, do you know this young lady? And he was like, no, I don't know her. I just met her online. She sent me a picture, so I sent a picture back. And I was like, wait, you don't know her. You sent a picture. And he's like, yeah, I sent her, a picture of his penis. Like, let's just keep it real. He sent a picture of his penis to her, a dick pic. And she was like, all right, I got you. Send me this money. And so he is in the room, in my office, like hyperventilating. He's like, man, it's all about to be gone. It's about to be gone. He's losing it. I'm trying to tell him, hey, let's I'm glad you came to me. Let's figure this out. So I look at the messages and, not the pictures, but the messages, the communication between the two, and the messages from, hey, here's what's going to happen. So he kind of shows me, hey, this is where she said she's going to do this. She's going to let all the people know. So I, thank God I was just able to sit there and just focus. And, I was like, you know what? Hey, let's do this. Who is she saying she's going to communicate with? He's like, well, she's going to tell my parents. She's going to tell my coach. She's going to tell my position coach. I'm close to getting a scholarship. I'm going to get that taken away. I'll never play college football again. And so I'm like, all right, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. We can tell your parents. We can tell a coach. We can do all this. We can come up with a plan and we can do this together, right? And so he's still freaking out. He's like, man, I don't want to tell my parents. They're going to be so disappointed in me. I said, hey, look, here's the deal. You're 18. It happens. We've all done something at 18 that we regret. Trust me, I got some regrets from 18. So let's figure this out. So I say, hey, before we do that, let me see your phone and pull up the young lady's profile. So he pulls up the young lady's profile, and I'm going through the profile, and I'm noticing just pics. Like it's your typical scammer profile, right? It's pics at this spot. There's nothing organic. There's different locations. There's this. And so I'm like, man, I don't think this is a real account. And so I said, okay, let's look at the messaging, or not the messaging, excuse me. Let's look at who she's following. So I'm looking like, okay, she's following nobody you just met her randomly. And then I'm like, okay, look, this is a lot of college football players here, right? It was something that triggered. This happened some years ago. It was something that triggered, like, wait a minute, this isn't right. This isn't lining up, right? There was this or there was other. It was either following, and like I said, it was years ago, it was either following a whole bunch of college football players or following a whole bunch of fake accounts. But if something triggered me, I was like, hey, this account is not right. And something was misspelled as well. So we went to the captions, and I'm going to dive deep. I'm going to investigate. There was multiple misspellings. Now, people misspell words, but these were multiple misspellings. You could tell somebody put this together quickly. And so what we said, and I said, hey, let's do this. Send this message. We're going to contact the authorities. We're going to contact the local police because what you're doing is not right? And so we sent that message and we didn't hear anything back. And so we did have to have conversations. I believe we had conversations definitely with our coaching staff or our head coach and his position coach that needed to know about what went on, how it was handled. Enough. I kept a lot of it. The young man was embarrassed, but we did what we had to do just because if this person says they're going to do it, we're going to beat that person to the punch per se. And then he had the conversations with his parents. And so that situation was averted. But I just remember it happened some while ago and I didn't even think about it until I read this article. And I was like, man, I did not realize that this crime puts so much fear, and they attack young men, right? Young men. So my player was 18 years old. It's his first time on campus, first semester on campus. And so because of the fear, thankfully, I was there to help this young man. Thankfully, his friend was there to say, hey, I kind of think this is fishy. Let's go talk to Coach Jones. And so I'm bringing up this episode. I really didn't want to do this episode because I always want to educate you all. When I saw this article 2 weeks ago by Dan Wetzel, and Dan, if you're watching, this was an incredible episode. I didn't want to just jump on and be like, oh, well, let me just make this episode because this happened, right? I never want to jump on and just get clicks, but I always want to educate you all. And as I was sitting here over the last 2 weeks, I was like, oh, you know what? That did happen to our player. I didn't know it was called sextortion. I didn't understand what was happening. I thought it was, for me at the time, I thought it was, somebody's trying to get a money grab. They're being ridiculous. They're just trying to get these kids. But I didn't realize how deep this is. Like, once again, I'm going to bring up the quote that Dan said. This is the most underreported crisis in America right now. And I wanted to bring this to you all because there's so much here. This article, like I said, and the articles in the show notes, should be a required reading for coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches, little league coaches, youth coaches, parents, everybody that did, principals, athletic directors, commissioners. Everyone should be reading this and coming up with a plan. Here's some more stats from the article and FBI warnings. Victims are mostly young men, 15 to 22. Predators are often overseas. So in the article about this young man, which highlighted this young man, the predators were in Nigeria. Predators are often overseas posing as girls online. Once a picture is sent, so normally a dick pic from the player, and just I'm keeping it what it is. That's what the players know it is, and we got to get to a point where we're helping these athletes. I would want to be more moderate with language, but we got to get to it. Like it is what it is. It's a dick pic. They're sending their penis. So once a picture is sent, threats escalate within hours. Pay $500 or I'll send this to your parents' coach. And the thing that's scary for the FBI and police departments and enforcement is it's nearly impossible to track the predators. Yeah. I think this thing and what for me when I first started it, when I talked that situation I had at the university with the young man, I was like, dang, why? Originally, I was like, man, why would he send that? Why would he send a nude to someone he doesn't know? Once again, that is something that is common in this generation, unfortunately. And then I thought about it. You know what? This isn't about that bad choice he made. In the grand scheme of things, we can work on that choice. But there are criminals that are exploiting vulnerable young men. And so this is why I'm doing this episode. This is why Dan wrote the article, I believe. This is why we need to be talking about this, because these are criminals. These aren't people. These aren't, frat guys taking a number and doing crazy stuff. These are criminals who are looking to get money overseas. And there are people who are taking their life, young men who are taking their life, 36. Someone took their life in 27 minutes. 27 minutes. The parents that were highlighted in this article said they heard a loud bang downstairs and they thought that their son had just tripped and fell. And they woke up to the unimaginable. And this is a crime. These are criminals doing this. And so we need to be talking about this. We need to be prepared for this. Here are some practical safeguards. I have my notes right here. This one is a heavy episode for me, reading this article and thinking about what could have happened with my player. And so I have my notes with me to keep me in line for this episode. So 3 things every athlete, coach, and parent should know. Number 1, tell your athletes, parents, tell your athletes, coaches, tell your athletes, don't send nudes, period. Don't send nudes, period. Period. There is no situation where sending a nude is acceptable. No situation where sending a nude is acceptable. And now that we know all this information, we can have these confirmations. Even if she sends it first, right? When I talk to the player, well, she sent it first, right? And so there's this feeling of, oh, I need to send it back. There's a couple reasons why we got to be careful. I learned this when I was a teacher. When I was a teacher, a police officer would say, we would have to pick up phones, and this police officer said, hey, y'all got to be careful picking up these kids' phones, because if little Becky sends little Johnny a photo, a nude, and you pick up Johnny's phone because Johnny's using his phone in class, you are in possession of a child photo, right? Sexually explicit photo. And so that was something where I was like, okay, I'm not taking phones. So we have to be careful with these photos, because you're getting this at 22. That could be a photo taken from anything. It's these criminals are criminal. They are not caring about certain things. I think we all can understand where I'm coming from. There's certain things YouTube won't allow me to say. What looks real is often stolen. You have to remember that. Like, this content is stolen. And this is one thing I learned from one of the coaches I worked with. He would always say, hey, let's hang around people we know. Let's make friends of friends that we know, right? I know the internet is different, and these players, they have a good game and anybody can reach them, and it's more, the world is connected through social media, the internet, different things like that. But let's stick to the people we know. Number 2, you have to tell someone immediately. Parents, tell your athlete, they have to tell someone immediately. If they don't want to tell you, they have to tell a coach. Athletes, if you're watching this, you have to tell someone immediately. You have to tell someone immediately. Coaches, ensure that your athletes have a place to go to tell someone immediately. Secrecy is the predator's weapon. That is what they're using secrecy. They want to get you there. We're going to tell these people, right? They want to isolate. They want to isolate you. Isolation is the work of the enemy. They want to isolate you. So you have to tell someone. I'm so thankful for the young man who brought his teammate in my office. And I'm so thankful that that athlete told his friend. So thankful. Because the thing is, isolation is the work of the enemy. And then silence plus secrecy, silence plus shame is a trap. It's a trap to keep you there, to make you feel bad. You want to get out. Well, to get out, you got to pay me. So it's very important to tell someone. That could be a trusted adult. That could be a compliance staff. That could be all my directors of player development working at these different schools and universities. Thankfully, they could come to me and say, Coach Jones, we can come to you. We can trust you. And then the third thing is you got to trust your network. You have to trust your network. Thankfully, like I said, this athlete trusted his friend. Thankfully, they trusted me, right? You got to trust the people involved. I was able to call campus police. We got them involved. I was able to tell our compliance director. I was able to tell my AD. We were able to trust, because I wasn't going to keep it a secret. We all need to know this. We need to frame it. So we were able to have these conversations, and our law enforcement on campus, and I even think the city where we were at even got involved as well. So you got to trust the network. So number one, parents, if you listen to this, athletes, you listen to this, coaches, you listen to this, the athletes must understand no nudes to be sent. Do not send nudes. Number two, tell someone. And then number three, trust your network. Now, I want to have a conversation real quick with parents, coaches who are hearing this. Parents, I know hearing this can be tough. I can imagine being a parent. I am a parent. I wouldn't want to hear that my children are sending nudes at all. Definitely don't want to hear that. And we're going to have these conversations with them as they get older. But as a parent, you have to be uncomfortable, you have to have the uncomfortable conversations early. Have the uncomfortable conversations early. They're 18. Like I told the athlete, I said, and his shoulder, he got more pieces. I said, man, you're 18 years old. You're gonna make some stupid choices. Let's just call it what it is. And so telling them, you're gonna make some choices that you're gonna look back and say, why did I do that? I think back to when I was 18, there were a lot of things I did that were stupid, absolutely stupid. But thankfully I could, have conversations with my parents, uncomfortable conversations. So parents, please open that door. I understand, to an extent with having children, that disappointment is real, but have those uncomfortable conversations. And talk about sextortion, especially you parents, athletes, when you get, your kids getting recruited or in high school. Talk about this as much as you talk about, you may be talking to your students about sex, alcohol, parties, relationships, things like that, drugs. Talk to them as well about this extortion and how this is something that can happen. And you can read the article. Unfortunately, like I said, they're aiming for 15 to 22-year-old young men. These are criminals, absolute criminals. And then let your kids know they can always come to you first. They can always come to you first. Even in the midst of a choice they know is bad. Let them know that they can come to you first. And I know a lot of you parents watching this have done this. I know your kids know that. If you don't know if they know that, please have that conversation. Please have that conversation. Now, coaches, this is to you. So I'll just talk to parents. Coaches, I want you, this should be a required read for every single person in your staff. For every single person in your staff. So from 15 to 22, we're looking from high school to college. And if even the pros, you should read this as well to, because you got some people that'll be in the NFL under 22. But let's go to high school. This should be a required read by every single coach. If I'm a head coach in high school, this is a required read for every person in my feeder school, right? This is a required read for the youth coaches that are coming into my school, the feeder school, the junior high, middle school, whatever the name is. And then for every coach on your staff. Every coach on your staff. Colleges, every coach on your staff, every person on your staff, all 6 of those people in recruiting, people in compliance, the dietitian, the strength staff, everybody that touches the player, this should be required reading. And then even in the NFL, I know my directors of player engagement are probably already on top of this, as I know my directors of player development in college are on top of this. But should be required readings. GMs, you should be reading this. Scouts, you should be reading this. Executives, you should be reading this article. This is something that is a crime, and it is underreported in America. The next thing you need to do is build a safe, judgment-free space. This is a lot. It's heavy. I remember, like, once again, when that young man came in my office and told me what he told me, first I was like, bro, why would you send a new, like, you know what I'm saying? I had to catch myself in my bias, like, why would you do that? And I had it, okay, let me not judge. I need to help this young man. He is, let me help this young man. So build a judgment-free, safe zone. Reinforce that players can come to you. So this may be for my directors of player development. High school coaches, y'all got to do a lot of things. College coaches may be your directors of player, or college football, your directors of player development coaches. Reinforce that they can come in. Hey, you can come in. You can come in, right? It may be uncomfortable, but it won't be met with punishment. You telling me this is not going to be punishment. This young man kept saying to me, am I going to get kicked off the team? Am I going to get kicked off the team? Am I going to get kicked off the team? Am I going to get kicked off the team? I remember him saying that and me affirming him. Hey, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. We're going to get through this with you, right? So make sure they can come in and let them know that there won't be punishment for this. This is a criminal coming after them. And then use team meetings to raise awareness. Use team meetings to raise awareness. Get in that team meeting. Get in front of everybody. Get in front of everybody and say, hey, guys, we're going to talk about this, right? We're going to talk about this. Your fall camp meetings, your spring break meetings, your Christmas break. Whenever there's a break, there should be a conversation about sextortion. Get in front of that team and let everybody know when that entire staff is there. Even on recruiting visits, that may be uncomfortable. Hey, parents, we just want to talk to y'all about this real quick. Our director of player development is going to talk about sextortion and how this can impact your athletes. You think a mom won't appreciate that, or dad won't appreciate that? At a recruiting visit, you take time to talk about an issue that has nothing to do with that athlete coming to your program. Use the time you have. Now, to my athletes, want to talk to you all. You are not alone. You are not alone. Some of you all may be watching this, like they said earlier in the article, is one of the underreported crisis in America right now. There's a lot of this happening that's not being reported. You are not alone. There are adults that want to help you. There are adults that want to help you. There are adults that want to help you. Coaches, teachers, directors of player development, whoever may be, parents, right? Uncles, aunts, there are adults that want to help you. You are not alone. And you're not the only one making a choice that you regret. Don't let the shame drive your decisions. Don't let this shame drive you. Okay, I gotta get this money. This is happening. Oh no, they're gonna get me. Don't let the shame drive your decisions. Like I said earlier, communicate with somebody immediately and then go from there. And then asking for help is a strength, not a weakness. Asking for help is a strength, not a weakness. Once again, I am so thankful for my player who came in for his friend, brought me into this and said, no, I'm going to help you. That friend didn't want to come to my office. And he was like, no, we are going to Ed Jones's office because Ed Jones is going to help you. You need help. Asking for help is a strength, not a weakness. Whew. There's a lot there in that episode I just shared. Yeah, it's sad. Reading that article is just sad. It made me so emotional because I couldn't imagine. And I pray I don't have to go through anything like that. I pray that nobody else goes through anything like that, that we can all come together and nip this in the bud. But we have to bring awareness to this. We have to. And so I'm asking you coaches, you directors of player development, you athletic directors, you staff, you parents, uncles, aunts, all the adults. They are targeting 15 to 22-year-old young men. Let's all come together and help these young men. We can do it. Now, here are some tips here for this. You can share. There's resources also in the article. You have the FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center, which is ic3.gov. You have the NCMEC Cyber Tip Line that's on the article as well. And then athletes, if you feel like you're at that place where you feel like, the weight of it is so heavy. This is, heavy for me to say. The weight of it is so heavy that you want to take, that you were thinking about taking your life. There are lifelines here: 988 Suicide and the Crisis Lifeline. I made this episode. I didn't want to make it, but after reading it over the last thinking about the last couple weeks, I had a situation that could have been worse, and so I want to highlight this so that we don't run into that. So we can be there to help our athletes. If you're a coach, I want you to take this episode and share it with someone. Share it with your coaches. Share it with other coaches. Share it with your athletic director. Share it with coaches. This is needed. Parents, I want you to sit down and play this with your kid. It's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be heavy. But I want you to sit down and play this and talk about this with your kid, because you never know. Talking to your kid, they can help a friend. You never know what can happen there. And then athletes, if this is happening to you, I want you to stop. I want you to stop. Tell someone. Stop and tell someone. Don't pay. Try your best not to panic. Talk to someone. Don't pay. Don't panic. Tell someone. Talk to someone if this is happening to you. I hope this podcast here is going to help someone. This isn't for clicks. This isn't for anything. You all who are subscribers here know that I care about player development. Player development is the enhancement of the athlete experience through holistic programs and initiatives, and the life of an athlete is holistic. That is necessary. And so I wanted to create this episode. Maybe there are videos out like this. I know my genre, my community is more based on, or we work in this realm. And so I want to get this out to you all too, because maybe some of you all don't know this is an issue. But this episode here is one to bring awareness to a crime that is happening. A crime that is heavy, and a crime that is affecting young men 15 to 22 right here in America. And so thank you for checking out this episode. Like I said, please read the article. Dan Wetzel, if you see this, thank you so much for writing. Take time to read the article. This should be a required read for all who have athletes, all who coach athletes, all who are around athletes. You need to check this out. As I always say, go out and create generational impact. Don't wait, create that impact today. And I hope I'm creating an impact in your life. I hope somebody watches this 10 minutes from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and says, I didn't do this because I watched this. So go out and create generational impact. Have those conversations. Don't wait. Create that impact today. Thank you for watching.